Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Shield Maiden. Hi, I'm Kim, also known as The Shield Maiden. And I get that name because I'm out here doing battle for your dreams and ready to go to battle at any point in time I need to, because that's what we do when we're Shield Maidens and Warriors, even if it's a modern day version. Today, I want to talk about flying without a net. you know you know we see the Great Gambini, he's up high on the trapeze without a net of any kind, right? And oh my gosh, that's so exciting that he can do that. How can the Great Gambini do that? He can do it because he trusts, he is ready, he's put in the work, he's put in the practice, he has got it down to a point where he knows without a doubt he's going to do this. He trusts his partner. He trusts his equipment. He's doing everything he needs to do for that moment. That's what you have to do for your dream. At some point, you have to just go without the net and just do it. And that's okay because you've practiced, you've worked at it, you've prepared, you've checked your equipment, you've checked your training, you practiced again today, you did all the things you need to do in order for that dream to come into fruition and be successful. You don't need the net. And one of my first episodes of this, I talked about jumping in my car and driving to Los Angeles with my last $300. That really wasn't much of a net. In fact, it wasn't a net at all because that's really how much money I needed just to physically get there. Was it scary? Yeah. Was I worried it wasn't going to work out? Little bit. But I also knew what I was doing, where I was, wasn't working either. Otherwise, I would have had more than $300, right? So at some point, you just have to take that literal leap of faith. It's hard. It really is hard to do it. It took me more than 50 years to get that point, right? But that's okay because there's no expiration date on your dream. It may not look exactly like you thought it would, but it will. It'll get there. My grandma, when she was a little girl, her mom passed away when my grandma was only 3. And long story short, she ended up in the children's home. And it wasn't a good experience at all at that time. It was really quite sad. Back at that point in time, it was legal to farm the kids out to work to earn their keep at the children's home. So she was farmed out to work at essentially what was a whorehouse. And she had to clean up after the ladies of the night, and she had to cook for them and clean for them. And it was legal as long as they paid her, which they paid her a nickel a month, and as long as they fed her. And she was allowed to eat the table scraps off of their plates when they were done eating. So this little like 5, 6-year-old girl was surviving off of the fat cut off of meats, things like that. It's absolutely horrific. Her escape mechanism, her survival technique for that time as a little girl was she believed wholeheartedly at some point the circus was going to come to town and she was going to run away with the circus. In order for that to happen, she knew even at 6 years old, she had to prepare. So she started teaching herself cartwheels and headstands and handstands and walking on her hands. And they didn't have any toys at the children's home. They weren't allowed to have any. So her entire childhood, she didn't have a single toy. But what she did do was she imagined that the fire escape at the children's home was a trapeze. So she would climb it and she would do pull-ups and tricks on it. And she would have to do it secretly because if she got caught, she got a whack for every rung she had climbed. So she always did it secretly off to the side and hoped she didn't get caught. And she really got quite good at it. And even when I was a little girl and she was well into her 50s, I remember she could stand on her hands and walk around the entire outside perimeter of her house on her hands. This little tiny 4'11" silver haired woman with glasses walking on her hands around the entire outside of her house. It was quite a sight. Of course, she didn't run away at the circus when she was little, even though that was her dream. And she never really let go of that dream. So fast forward, she's 65 years old. My grandfather was ill, dying of cancer. She had put herself through nursing school and She spent her whole life taking care of others. He became ill and she stopped working and dedicated herself 24 hours a day to care for her dying husband. Everything you can imagine, taking care of him with a hospital bed in their living room. When he passed away, it was interesting because she created a whole new life for herself. And one of the things she did at about 70 years old is she went back to school. She went to clown school. She became a professional clown in her 70s. She could do the balloon animals. She could still stand on her head and walk on her hands and do cartwheels at 70. She was a hoot and she loved every second of it. She would go to schools and be a clown. She would go to nursing homes as a clown. Any opportunity she had, she was in our little hometowns uh, festival. They always did every week. They did a like a contest of things, and so she entered the contest doing headstands. She was almost 80 years old at the time, and she embraced her dream. She never gave up on it, and God didn't either. Your dream is still there. It's not too late. Now, she didn't run away at the circus. She kind of became her own circus, though. So you might have to adjust your dream slightly, and that's okay. You can still have it and you can still live it. So go do it. Go live your dream. Go fly without a net. I'll see you all next week.